Welcome back, everyone. Second podcast here. New. I guess you could call it a studio, new location. Went from my basement into Tony's basement. Did a little rearranging a little bit beforehand, but we've got a nice backdrop for you. A little hunting, everything hunting related, and we've also got Cody this time. So welcome, Cody.
Welcome, Cody.
Hi, everyone.
We've got we're thinking, or we did think and we did plan, we're going to do a turkey-related podcast now. Us three went turkey hunting together this year for the first time, and we each kind of had our own little seasons and our own scenarios and situations and stuff that we want to kind of dive into, as well as some of the gear we use. We'll touch on some of that stuff as well. So we're excited for episode 2 here, and come along with us as we talk about some turkey hunting from this year.
Yeah, so for me, turkey hunting with these guys, it was actually my first year turkey hunting ever. Never even went with like my brother when I was younger, or just kind of like my grandpa or my dad either, and had a really good time. I already had a shotgun, so just getting into buying that tag was kind of just everybody else's idea. I was like, they're all hunting already. They bought their tags, so I ended up just picking up like what were they, the leftover tags?
Yeah, leftover bonus tags, whatever you want to call them.
Bonus tags. And my dad and I ended up going in the last 2 weeks, right before the season ended. And it was a really good time, but I did get to go out with Hunter and Cody, and we had a pretty good time. But I'll kind of jump more into that after we listen to Cody's turkey season.
So for me, this is actually my second year of turkey hunting. And I mean, when I was little, I've gone a couple times with uncles, but these last few years, like, me by myself, solo. But yeah, no, I mean, it's frustrating at times, but I don't know, I enjoyed it quite a bit, just being in the woods.
Did you try and kind of redo or not even recap, but try and experience or use your experience with your uncle from when you were young? Did you this is what we did this time, like I'm going to try and redo that or try and use that to my advantage?
Yeah, kind of. So, I don't know, he kind of had, I don't know how you would call it, kind of like a mesh netting in front. To kind of help break them up. I rather just sit in the brush just out and have the brush in front of me. It's so all natural scenery, nothing that might look out of the norm.
Oh yeah, less to carry too.
Yeah. Especially when the hands are full with 3 decoys.
Yep.
So, but I took it in mind. Some of the tips he gave me when I was younger that I was able to retain over time or over the years. But and then just kind of taking his advice and doing that little bit of recon beforehand. So I went actually the week before youth hunt, which is the first actual season of the year, and then so I went just did a little bit of recon and found 2 spots that I thought were going to be pretty promising. And then when I went up, so I had second season, I went up that Thursday, and kind of the spot that I thought would be most promising, that's kind of where I hung around Thursday evening and then all day Friday, and came to no luck, didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, it was very quiet.
Typical turkey hunting, I feel like.
Yeah.
For most people. Yeah.
But when we did the recon though, because I was with a buddy of mine, Matt, he came with me, we actually managed to call a Tommen from the neighboring property to about 40 yards out from us where we were. And the unfortunate part is we were kind of Well, the fortunate part is in the morning when we did the recon, there was still snow all over the ground, so fresh tracks. It was like we called it the highway,
Oh yeah.
and so later on in the day, we went back out to the same area because we really liked what we saw. We found like a big, how would you say, a blackberry bush
Okay.
that we kind of cleared out in the center. And I was actually outside looking in. He was kind of like, sitting, acting like he was sitting when we were to be hunting. And all of a sudden, gobbling started coming from the valley on the ridge up above us down into the valley. And I'm out in the open. So I thought, well, this sucks. I'm going to ruin it before it even starts.
Yep.
But I managed to dip behind some trees and call him in, like I said, 40 yards. But I mean, it's still cool to see him just in the thick brush and also out in the open.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the best scenario too, when, at least in my experience turkey hunting, when almost like when you least expect the turkey to come out is like the best opportunity.
Yeah.
Even for like, we'll get into my season, but plenty of times in the past, like, you got a turkey at like 200 yards and you watch it for, 3 hours straight, like, and it might make it into 50 yards or whatever, but it takes, 3 hours and then you might just see it and it runs away. And whereas if you have the situation like that, where all of a sudden it just happens to be that close to you, it just makes it that much, I feel like, easier.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of, priority one, the spot. Nothing though, when my season came around. In the second spot, we put him to sleep when we were scouting and watched him fly up into the roost. And so I felt like, and knowing in years past the history with the land, so there's a neighboring property on the other side. There's a hill, we call it Tate's Hill. And we know, a bunch of pines, thick oaks. It's just, you will always hear them gobbling from Tate's Hill, but the chances of them coming down onto the property are very slim.
Yeah.
Because you got wide open fields up on top, and then it's just wide open. It's better off our property than they got a place to fly down. Versus us, you got thick brush. I mean, nothing you can do. But watch them fly up in the roost there, so I'll spot two, and so that's actually where I went Sunday morning. And it was probably about 6:30. I was in my spot and heard them gobbling from Tate's Hill, and so I don't know. It was just, I don't know, surreal. It's the heart starts pumping because you're close, and this is the farmer who farms our land. I was on his back field.
Okay.
So technically it wasn't our land, but he gave me permission to hunt that field. And so the fact that I'm just, but the fact that I'm just that much closer to, where you hear the stories and that it's a potential payout, you might say.
Yep.
It was it was a rush. And then this, but hearing the gobbling wasn't the rush that came into play. So to kind of give you a layout of the field where I was kind of on a point, like a bend in the woods in the tree line, and the actual cornfield is elevated from where I was sitting. So the field is actually about eye level with me.
Okay.
I was kind of sitting down in a hole, and I had a tree to my left kind of breaking me up between Tate's Hill and where I was. And I had the decoys, my Jake and my two hens, about anywhere from 5 to about 12, 13 yards out. And little sucker, it still kind of pisses me off. 2 coyotes came out and hit my hen decoy closest to me and scared the shit out of me because I never heard them.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It's just, so that was the big kicker, the big rush. And for me to go through that, I thought my hunt was over at that point. And this was the last morning, last chance I have. And so at this point, all I'm thinking is I'm coyote hunting, no longer turkey hunting. But then, I don't know, I had been about 15 minutes, and all of a sudden I see one head pop up over the crest of the hill. One turns into two turn into 4. Well, okay, as they got closer, they were all 4 of them were toms. And now the blood's pumping again. And, but they never got close enough. It had been 60, 65 yards. I've been told by my uncle, who's poked one at 55, he's like, don't do it.
Yeah, too risky.
You're taking a big chance. And I was always preached to make it a clean, ethical kill. I mean, so unfortunately, no, the toms didn't come close enough, but behind the toms were 4 jakes, and the 4 came right up on my jake decoy. And well, last morning, last chance I have, thought about passing them up, but I don't know, the opportunity's there, might as well take it. And the awesome part is 3 of them kind of split back and 1 stayed. And I ended up scoring a jake, so.
First turkey?
First turkey.
That's awesome.
So, but, you get how you're told, when you kill your first deer, you have
buck fever.
Fever.
Yeah.
So I guess you can say it's kind of the same scenario, because I mean, I was shaky, and it was crazy, but it was awesome. Like the series of events leading up to it. It's just, and that right there got me hooked on it. That's why I texted you as soon as I could that I would come and sit with you, because that's all I want to do is just sit in the woods and then see somebody else score.
Yep.
It's just a rush. I love it. I love the feeling.
I remember when you texted him. I don't know if we were together or if you just texted me right away. But I remember him telling, like, first he's like, Cody just texted me there was a coyote hit his decoy 5 yards away.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, that's secret. Like, was he out in the open? He's like, I don't know. He hasn't answered me since. And I'm like, what happened? Yeah. You see that online too all the time. If people say that, like, even deer hunting and stuff. If it, like a deer hunt, if you see a coyote, a deer hunt turns out into a coyote hunt.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, the cool thing is so that Saturday, storm came rolling through. So that's one day less I had.
Oh, yeah.
So me and my father, because he ended up coming up and joining me, we went out to a bar in the neighboring town, and we were talking with some of the other locals. And guy said that the week prior, his buddy was out turkey hunting, and he had a coyote come and hit him in the back, ran into his back. And
Like,
it's
hit
just
the guy or hit his decoy?
hit him.
Oh, wow.
It came and hit him from behind. And he's like, it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he turned around and he shot the coyote, but it's just, it was crazy enough to hear that story.
Yeah.
Right after that.
And then the following morning, I had my own encounter, because I've been told it's not a common occurrence, but it happens. It's not rare, but it's just, it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was just hearing some of the stories from a couple of the guys at the bars, and then I had my own.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just
That's an awesome experience.
yeah.
And like you was saying, because with us having our social media, I was like asking all the guys like how are they doing in the field, because I know you were obviously hunting, and Cullen, he was hunting, he got one too, and some of the other guys were sending photos to us. I was just kind of asking like how everybody was doing. So when he said he got one, and I was like, well, I'm going in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was, I was even more pumped to get out there as well. And for me, it kind of stung for me because I was actually working like an hour and a half away from home, so I wasn't getting home till like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I was trying to get out at night, but I had to go hunt public land, which was like another 30-minute drive, and then you got to come home, take your work stuff off, throw your camo on. Granted, I could have thrown my stuff in the car, but I didn't get a really good chance to kind of scout around.
Yeah.
And even though like I was hunting in the Kettle Moraine State Forest, which is huge, and there's obviously like a lot of sign of turkeys and stuff like that. And me and my buddy Bryce, we'll have him on again, or we'll have him on soon here shortly. But we went out, tried to scout around, we tried calling, and I'm totally brand new to turkey hunting. So is he, so we're kind of calling, and we were sitting where there was a lot of sign of shells, spent shells, and feathers and stuff like that, like all along this tree line, which I suppose it could have been some other hunters from previous weeks, but we didn't end up hearing anything. We kind of moved to some spots that we were looking at on the map on Onyx, and we thought they were fields, but they ended up being like pine tree rows, like planted pine trees, and we're like, all right, well, hopefully they're still pretty short enough, but they were like super thick. So we ended up walking the Ice Age Trail, I think it is. Does that run through the Kettle Moraine?
Yeah.
So we ended up walking that for like 2 days before the weekend, before I ended up actually hunting with Cody. But with hunting public land, I mean, what time did you say you got out when you were hunting private land?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock?
4:30, 5, because shooting hours, I believe 5. I was in the spot by 5.
Yeah.
At the absolute latest, because shooting hours started at 5:15, roughly.
So with hunting public land, and only 30 minutes away from my house, we were getting up, or I was getting up at like 3 a.m., getting out. Like I was out of my car, we were walking to the spot at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think the first day we went was like 3:50. I think that's when I pulled in.
That's when I think we walked out about 4:15.
Yeah. And we ended up sitting off of this like open field that was pretty much just grass, and we actually saw another hunter walk up the Ice Age Trail, and he ended up sitting just to like the northwest of us, maybe 200, 300 yards. And so we're sitting there. I think we were sitting there till 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and we definitely heard some gobbles.
Yeah.
And we did call a little bit, but Cody was recording me. Even though we didn't have a lot of action going on, we ended up seeing one hen, and then we actually kind of got up and decided, let's try to move towards where we thought the gobbles were coming from. And we walked down the trail a little bit, and I thought there's a turkey sitting out in the field, and kind of forget. I was like, yeah, I think that dude left, because we saw a flashlight, like, it was still dark out.
Yeah, we saw someone come in, and then we also saw someone heading out.
Yeah, so we're like,
it's
that's
still
the same
early
dude.
in the morning.
And we're like walking, and I'm looking through my binoculars, and I'm like, dude, there's a turkey out there. And then Cody looks, he's like, dude, that's a freaking decoy, it's not moving. So I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So we ended up moving spots. Did we even hunt the rest of that day?
Not that day, but no, we did, because we went.
Or did we meet up with him?
No, we met up with him the following day.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But the second half of the first day I was with you, we ended up, I don't know what road that was, because we ended up going, in that same area with you afterwards. And down in that kind of bowl, little kettle.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Kettle.
Yes, we did end up moving spots, and I think that kind of went into the next day, and we chose another spot because back to when I was scouting with Bryce, we ended up going to this second open field with kind of a lot of grass that had like a cut field like right off of it, and we did end up seeing a hen, and so like, all right, well, I'm gonna come back here tomorrow because at the time I think it was like 6-7 o'clock. There was no other cars parked, so I'm like, if there's nobody here in the evening, there's probably gonna be nobody here in the morning. Which there really wasn't, because we did end up going back there, but I ended up going back there with Cody, and we sat up on the high side of this grassy field, and we heard gobbles again, and we didn't see a hen in the morning at all, and then we decided to start walking, and sure shit, as soon as we got up, started walking, didn't see a turkey, but we saw a dude walking down the trail with a shotgun, turkey hunting. And we were like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he just kind of walked past us. We kind of followed him, but I think he left.
Yeah.
And, or like, he went to the road and left. But, yeah, I mean, that's like, just like, we could hear birds, but with it being so late in the season and there being so many people that had already taken a bird and so many people hunting in the same area, and they're moving around. There's not a lot of guys hunting public land that are just sitting in a spot. I mean, I don't really know, but I feel like that's just like a ton of pressure on the birds, so they might not be
always
moving as much. Or maybe they are moving a ton and they're just not hanging around in one spot. But yeah, we ended up sitting there and we just kind of worked in a bunch of different areas and heard birds, but I wasn't able to kind of make it happen this year. But it was still a really good experience. It was really fun kind of getting out there early and being able to call and actually get like gobbles back. I know I was a little rusty when I was hunting with you guys, but when I went with my dad, I was like, screw it, I'm just going to call and the only way to get better with that stuff is to do it. So it was a good time, and unfortunately we couldn't make it happen, but I'm definitely going to be buying more tags next year because you can buy multiple weeks, right?
Yeah,
one a day.
It's like one a day. So I'm definitely going to be buying, and for different locations too. Like I'm going to try to go up to the Black River State Forest next year, I think, and then still hunt here as well. But it was a great time. But that's kind of some of the things I do differently, and definitely scout some more. I think for sure.
And just to kind of go off of your experience, I mean, I can tell you're gonna fall in love with it, because what you forgot to mention is the first day when I was with you, after that first spot when we changed, we were in that big bowl, and there's gobbling down in there, and it's echoing, and just to see the excitement on your face, because it's like, it sounds like it's almost on top of us, but we don't know. And then to find out there's another person down there with us.
That's right.
And we were almost on top of them, so we kind of doubled back.
Yep.
And I think it was probably a half hour later, and bang!
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
And that guy that we actually saw, we were walking up because we were all getting ready. Now I remember. We were like, we started hearing that turkey, and well, it had to have been a time because it was gobbling.
It was a time.
And we're creeping up, and Cody's got the camera out, and I'm holding on to my shotgun. And we get like, I'm like starting to like take stuff out of my bag, and then we hear like a crow, and we both look at each other. We're like, that's not real. That's not a real crow.
Pretty weird.
And then we ended up like running back the other way, basically, because we're like, we don't want to be on top of this dude. And when he was walking by, it was one of the same guys that we saw drive past us.
Yeah.
And asked like, where are you guys hunting? Have you had any luck? So that's kind of, I love that aspect of kind of like I'll tell somebody where we were sitting or how we did. Like, I'm not going to be somebody who's going to be like, oh yeah, we didn't see anything, don't hunt over there. But that's just kind of what you run into hunting public land, especially when you're only going a couple hundred yards off the road. Like, you're going to see cars and other guys, which is totally fine. That's just kind of something that us as hunters either have to be willing to get up earlier, go farther, go deeper into the woods to make it happen. And it was still a great time, and I definitely enjoy that. I don't know what you call it. Not necessarily networking, because he was just kind of like, hey, I hope you guys are doing good, and kind of kept going. But like, you start to talk to other hunters and other people in the area and kind of get an idea and establish some sort of like respect in the community of hunters. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We ran into those people the next day too when I went.
Those were
The first day,
guys, right?
Yeah.
So there's two. So I guess we did run into those guys twice, but we were there was one dude who just came like speeding up the road like as soon as we left that first spot.
Yeah.
And I don't think we saw him the second day. But yeah, I mean, we did see. That was another thing where we were like, are those really turkeys, or is that somebody else calling?
Right.
And it was just funny too, because like then we're like, all right, we need to beeline it down this trail, and it was getting real thick, so we ended up going down this deer trail a little bit, and then we just we stopped, and we're like, we hear people talking, and then they're like, was that you guys calling? We're like, yeah. And he's like, we thought you were a turkey, and we're like, we thought you were too, until like you got a little closer.
Yep.
And we're like, yeah, those are people. But
They were nice though too. I mean, they told us, you
Yeah.
know, the guys basically told us where he's at. He sits there, he's been hunting there his whole life.
That's what's so great about that hunting community is these guys are a lot older. I think late 60s, early 70s.
One was 70.
I would say,
I mean, but it's just, pointers and, like wishing us good luck. And
they even offered the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "Are you guys? Do you have anybody hunting like the week after?" He's like, or like even the day after, because he's like, "We won't hunt here if you're gonna be here in the morning." And we're like, "No, don't worry about it."
Yeah, that's his spot his whole life. Like he literally said he hunts the same spot every year.
Yeah.
And he's just willy-nilly able to just throw the spot up there. He knows there's birds in there.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, have one.
And he's telling us, it's pretty dead now, but I mean, if you come back in a couple hours, you might get lucky because he kind of understands the, I wouldn't say cycle, but the
their pattern.
pattern.
He even said he told us when, not necessarily where, because it was that spot, but he told us when, the time of day that he's shot birds and has seen birds. He was like, you got to be here before 7 a.m. Otherwise you're gonna scare them.
No, after.
After 7?
Yeah, so he said he never comes out at first light.
Oh, that's right.
He comes in. He sleeps in, comes in after, because he has to pass the birds to get to the open spot.
That's right.
Yep.
So he said you always have to come in after, otherwise you spook them out of the roost. And the funny thing is too, when we parked, I remember we're like, dude, no one's gonna be down here. We went down this direct straight, it was a dumping ground. There's metal. I mean, we're stepping and it's just crunching glass.
He picked away. Just
we were literally like, there's got to be nobody down here. Nobody's dumb enough to go down this and almost kill themselves. And then we go cut left and we're going towards them calling. We talk to them and we're like, all right, let's head out and follow them. And we just take this nice easy path up that they had walked before. And we could have done that, but we took the most dangerous steep hill.
Little did we know they were parked about 40 yards down the road from where we were.
Right down the path.
Yep.
But I mean, whatever though. But, no, it's always awesome to hear from the old timers, tips, just experiences, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I like it.
I had for myself at least this year hunting, I only had 2 days. I hunted only Saturday and Sunday morning. And Tony came along both times to film, so we did make a video out of that, I think.
Yeah, we definitely made a video. It was a 2-parter, so I will link that above. I didn't link the last video I said I would, but I'll link that above for you guys to go check out after you're done listening with this podcast.
Yeah, so you can watch that, see how it all played out. The first morning, my brother-in-law was along as well. We sat in his rhino blind, which I've never sat in a blind like that, and it was really cool. It was one of those you can't see in, but you can see completely head to toe out of the blind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember exactly the first day very much because it wasn't as I think we saw a tom, I know with some hens, but they never got any closer. And then I've got a public spot by my house I was gonna try, but since we could hear gobbles, we went back the next morning.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this, like the same situation you have with Tate's Hill, where we have like our big wooded hill. So yeah, I have the way our property lines up, it's my grandpa's property, family property, and so we have our wooded hill, and then it's like, I don't know, 100 yards wide of, some type of field corns, soybeans, hay, whatever they put out that year. And then it's kind of like swampy pine trees, and then up to another hill. And they almost always roost up on that hill. And then on the other side of that hill, there's another cornfield. And if they're up there 9.9 times out of 10, they're going to go the other way. Yeah. So it's always like, I remember telling you that on Saturday mornings, if there's a bird up on our hill, we have a really good chance. We never heard any, I don't think we heard any gobbles, because that bird came out of the neighbors pretty far, I don't know, 250, 300 yards, whatever it was. But then the next morning, we got up, we almost didn't go. I remember that.
Yeah.
We both woke up, and I texted him, and he didn't answer right away, so I was about to go back to bed. And then you ended up messaging me, and we're like, all right, screw it, let's just go. So we got out there probably only a half hour late.
Yeah, it was about half hour later.
Because if season opens, let's say 5:15, they don't fly down to 5:45, whatever.
We got out at 5:30, so I mean, we're still late, but not.
It wasn't horrible, but we, took the 400-yard walk around, and as we're cresting, so it's, again, similar to that, where our trail to walk in is, the field is 5-6 feet higher. So as you're coming down the trail, you're eye level with the field. And we're we're about to creep through the brush, and I'm like, stop, I can see something. So we pull up our binoculars, and there's a tom strutting in the field with a hen already, right in the middle of the field. And we assumed it was the bird out of our woods, because walking in, I did a crow call, and we had a bird gobble up on our hill. So it was, what do we do? So I crept in the brush. You crept on the other side of the brush. I don't even think we called or anything. We just let him. Did I? Oh, I think I did. They gobbled a couple times. Yep. And then he didn't seem like he cared, so we just let him feed off the field.
And while you were calling, though, because he started calling, and then we actually heard another one.
That's right.
Up behind you, and then because they worked away.
Yeah, they
then
worked.
We rushed out into the field, set up the blind, and then we kind of sat in.
Yep. Yeah, so we sat there, and then I don't know. I think it was 6:30. We had a tom come out, 4 jakes, and I think 2 hens, and they came out at 350 yards. He's strutting the whole time. It's my last morning. I knew I wasn't going to go at night on Sunday night, so I definitely was way too aggressive with him.
Yeah.
But I mean, it made for a good video. It made for a good experience, for you especially. Over the course of the 3 hours they were in the field, I think he got probably 100, 150 times. I mean, it was every time I'd scratch the call, scratch a call, mouth call, literally anything, he'd fire off. Yeah. And they got a little closer, then they'd work away, then they got closer, worked away, blah, blah, blah. Sooner or later, they worked into 65, 70 yards. He's strutting, they're all clumped up. And I remember thinking about, if he separates off, should I try and poke him? But kind of the same thing, I told myself, I know that's too far. Yeah. And they ended up working away and left, finally. So then we were it was probably 9:30 at that time. Do we leave? Do we stay? The jakes came back out.
Yeah, but they kind of hung up at because we marked it out. They hung up at 120 yards, and we're sitting there kind of waiting, just frustrated because they worked away from they worked all the way down to the our same corner.
The field is 100 yards wide, but 500 yards long.
Yeah,
and we're on the very end of it.
Yeah, so they're probably directly to our east at what is it? That's probably 100 yards, all the way to that corner.
Yeah.
They cut across diagonal to go to 70, and then they worked away, and then we're sitting there all frustrated, and we're if we can just get those hens
wherever the hens went,
yeah,
he followed them, on their heels.
And we're if we can just get 2 hens to break off, and he can just follow, he'll follow them in because he's been doing that all morning. And there was the 4 jakes. There was what did we say, 3 hens?
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 hens, the 4 jakes, and the tom.
And I think at some point those 3 hens broke off and kind of went away where the tom was just with the jakes. And then 2 more hens came out from Hunter's side of the property, and we're all right, this is our chance, because they came out 100 yards right off the edge of that field, and we saw him come out, and then you're definitely calling. He called him in. They were standing
like 10
with
yards,
decoys.
literally
Yeah,
10 yards.
literally 10 yards. And I think when they got to like 50 yards away, the Tom, the Jakes started to follow. When the hens were 50 yards away, and the Tom and the Jakes, they only ended up going from like 120, 150 yards away to 90. And we're like, what the heck is going on? Because those hens walked right into the decoys. The Tom looked super interested, and then all of a sudden, whatever it was, and we weren't moving. Like I had the camera going, and we were just sitting there. And he just turned around, and him and the Jakes just took off, and they ended up being 400 or 500 yards away.
Could even pull the Jakes away from him. Yeah. Not even to the hens.
It was so fun, but so bizarre at the end because we were just like, what? We literally looked at each other. We're like, what the F just happened?
Yep.
But
What would you say the total distance was then that they traveled to that about 70, 75 yard marker?
They came out almost on the other side of like the main part of the field. It splits off and then it goes uphill towards a house. So they probably came 300 yards.
And that was over the course of a couple hours?
3 hours. I think
So,
that's what it was. It was 6:30 to 9:30 is when they like walked away.
So, I mean, it's like a slow movement, but they slowly just came in. So, I mean, that's something that you got to, experience the strut, them calling, you get, visually see it, and then just them working in.
Yeah. And even having the hens that close. I
Yeah.
mean, the day before we had a couple hens, solo hens coming right through the decoys. They definitely didn't like them once they got in there.
Yeah.
But the two hens the next day hung around for a while.
yeah, they did.
And then, I remember then we walked out, we packed up, and we were walking on the way out. And the hill or the field kind of comes up to a point and then drops down to a like a little willow patch that comes out. So they had disappeared for a while, and we're like, all right, like we haven't heard anything in an hour. Let's get out of here. And I remember we caught a glimpse of something like by that horse pasture.
Yep.
And we
Jumped right in.
we worked away, or we worked closer, maybe like 40 yards, and then we don't know if it went in by the horses or in the woods there or whatever. But yeah, it was definitely, I remember like everything played out exactly how I told you I needed it to play out. Like I said, bird needs to come out of our woods. It happened. Then we had a Jake out there, a Tom out there with the hens. I said, if we can pull the hens closer, like, they came to 70 yards, then they left. And then I was like, we need the hens.
Yeah.
Like they're, I don't have a Jake decoy out. I don't have a Tom decoy out. We have nothing to intimidate the Tom or the Jakes, but we just need the hens. And then I remember seeing them pop out of the corner, and I'm like, perfect. We just need them to come closer. And within 2 minutes, they were standing in the decoys.
There was nothing. Just a little bit of calling. They kind of went towards the Tom, but they started calling a little bit. They immediately like beelined towards the decoys. It was so cool. But it was just like.
I mean, if I don't get anything, just the amount of action, just that one morning alone.
That's what keeps you especially turkey hunting.
Yeah.
Because of like deer hunting, like you might hear them grunting or something during the rut or whatever.
Yeah.
Turkey hunting, like you're gonna hear gobbles. Good chance, like you're gonna hear them
all around you.
You might not see them, but like just I remember telling you that, like if we can just hear them in the roost, it gives you chills because it's so loud. It's such a cool noise.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do the same thing as Tony next year. This year, I only bought the one tag. I only went the 2 days or the 2 mornings, so that kind of foiled everything that I had. Like I couldn't go the next week or anything. I used to buy 3 or 4 weeks of tags and just go out when I could. And you can at least. I don't do much scouting. I probably should, but I never do. I don't do much. I don't do any scouting. So even using like the first 2 weeks, you're hunting. If it works out, it works out. But using that to scout, I feel like can definitely match up better. But
and that's one thing I changed this year. So my first year, I didn't do any scouting of any sort. I just kind of went beeline straight into the woods, not understanding, not knowing the habits of these birds.
Yeah.
And then just like the experience of that first season for me, didn't call any Tom or Jake in, but I managed to get hens in.
Oh yeah.
So to me, that was already a lot of progression on my behalf because me being new to calling, I don't know, tempo, kind of like how long you should wait between calls, and just kind of it's like small stokes. It's real easy to bust yourself.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a learning curve, and it actually my first year blew way out water than I was expecting it to go.
Yep.
So the one thing I changed is to do a little bit of scouting, just to kind of get more of a lay of the land, and maybe understand the habits just a little bit better than before.
Yeah. Well, to that change, it changes year to year.
Yeah.
So like you might go out next year, sit in that same exact bush, and they're going to be, every day they'll go 100 yards away from you, 100 yards away from you. So like scouting especially, I mean, it's the same thing with deer. It's the same thing with anything you do out hunting wise. It changes every year. It changes week to week. Like the more you can scout and realize, get a pattern for what they're going to do that year. Your success is going to go way up.
Yeah. And so like, what? Because I know we want to talk a little bit about like kind of like the gear that we used. So like what, like we can just kind of run through it. What gun were you using? Any additional sights that you had on it?
That they are.
And then the AR. Yeah, we're shooting the slugs out of that sucker. And kind of like decoy gear, kind of like just some basic stuff, but like run through your gun.
The necessities.
Yeah.
Gun, clothes, ammo, decoys.
So I mean, like clothing, I wear redhead. I don't know. Lightweight. I don't know. It's very comfortable to me. And not really expensive. Like, I thought it was a pretty fair price because I know you get some of these people that go out and buy, Sitka, the best of the best, and it's like, well, kind of ease into it a little bit. But I wear redhead, and I think it does the job just fine. And then for a gun, I have a Stoeger M3000. That is my first gun I've ever purchased. It's all right. Yeah. But no, I definitely plan on keeping that. I don't think I'll ever part ways with it. Especially since I use a shotgun for deer hunting.
Oh yeah.
So I just swap out.
It's your first gun you bought too, which is
sentimental value.
12 years from now, you might have a $2,000 shotgun, but it's something to hang on to or use every so often.
Yeah.
Did you keep the? Did you keep just like the red like bead at the end, or did you add something else to it?
It's just normal what the gun came with. And then decoys, I use Avian, and
uses those, but he buys redhead camo.
$200 decoy, but a $75 jacket.
Yeah, well, yeah. I didn't just because
those are really nice.
My first year, I used like my grandpa's decoy, and it was real cheap and looked like crap. Like me, that wouldn't even fooled me. Yeah. But I mean, but these like they look really nice. It's like a hard plastic, and
they're
it's
like
just
they're like the inflatable ones too.
Yeah, I mean, I just kept them inflated. I don't think I'll probably deflate them sometime this summer. But I don't know. It's just I think it's worth the money.
They are pretty nice.
I use them.
Do you?
Yeah, that's what I have.
Oh, yeah. No, I like it. I like it. I like them a lot. Yeah. I think the hens look pretty good.
What kind of ammo did you use?
Federal TSS.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Another big spender.
Oh. But this was before ammo skyrocketed in price. When I mean, it was about 42, 45 at the time. So, but
I won't make any political jokes on today's But what about what you use for a call?
Woodhaven. Slate.
Slate call.
Slate, and then I had a little cheapy box call, but I mean, when they're coming in, I mean, you have the gun kind of almost shouldered in one hand, and just a little cheap box call to the side, or kind of up wood.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what I had kind of going on at the time.
Yeah. And then for me, I also use the Stogram 3000. Also, my first gun that I've ever purchased. If you guys want to check out a review on that, shameless plug. But it's also going to be, it's already up on the channel.
Very shameless.
Yeah. Check it out. It's pretty good, if I say so myself. But I use that, and this is the only turkey shells I had in stock. So I was using a Winchester XX 4-shot. The only time I shot it was when we were patterning my shotgun. But used that. I just bought some cheap, like redhead slate call. I did buy mouth calls, but I'm not very good at it, so I didn't really use those at all. And I did spend some money on my camo, so I bought it when we went out to Colorado, but I was using First Slate. I think it was a Fusion camo pattern, and we bought it out for Colorado, but it works pretty good, especially because I was hunting later in the season, so there's a lot of green on the trees, and it worked good for me. I mean, I shouldn't say it worked good for me because I didn't shoot anything, but it's a fine pattern. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of, as far as other gear,
Decoys?
oh yeah, decoys. I also used redhead. It was just like their foam ones. They were super easy to like be mobile with because I can just kind of stuff them down and throw them in my bag. Especially with being a camera guy, I already have a bunch of other gear that I'm like hauling with me. So having something that was, they were pretty cheap. I think it was like $34 or $40 for 3 decoys that it came with, and I mean, I probably could like use something to puff them up a little bit better, and maybe even put something in them to keep them all weighed down. Because I did notice like there was a breeze, like they were kind of spinning a little bit, just because they were only held down by like that little.
Well, a little more than you would hope, where
Yeah.
it
Yeah, you
might
still
not
want
look
to
as lifelike.
Yeah, like when I say move, I mean like they were like almost like spinning around in a
Yeah.
circle at times, not just like slightly moving back and forth in the wind.
Small movement.
But yeah, so I bought those, and yeah, I mean I would be open to hunting out of a blind, but because we were hunting public and you just got to be super mobile, I mean that's just another thing you got to lug around too. So that's why we kind of didn't go that route for me anyway.
And actually, I prefer just to sit. I'm not a big fan of blinds unless it's deer hunt. But
Yeah.
other than that, I just like leaning up against a good tree.
And let us know too, like if you guys are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, comment down below like what your favorite method of turkey hunting is. Whether you guys hunt out private in a blind, or you still are mobile, or kind of like whatever you guys do, and how successful you've been with that.
Yeah, I can run into my gear that I used this year. I was going to use a crossbow, but I only got it like a week before season. So I didn't have enough time behind it, so I put that back away and ended up using, it was my first ever shotgun when I was 12, but it was a hand-me-down from my dad, a Remington 870. I use that every single year. That's what I killed mine with a couple of years ago. And then ammo, I use the same as Tony, the Winchester XX 3-inch 4-shot. I think it was the same thing. It was the only thing they had in stock at Cabela's when I went to go look for new ammo.
Thanks, Joe.
Sorry.
Had to do it.
Let's go, Brandon.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I've watched some reviews on that stuff. The TSS always in the videos is the best patterning round, especially at like, I mean, a lot of them shoot at like 20, 40, 60, and even at 60, they got pretty good patterns. But I mean, I think the Winchester XX the hope is they're in the decoys at 15 yards or whatever, so
Yeah.
that should do. Clothing wise, same as Tony, bought First Light for when we went out to Colorado elk hunting, so I wore that again. Because we went to Colorado in September, it was pretty warm, so everything was lightweight already, so
Yeah.
was able to use that. Other than that, in previous years, I just used a humble jumble, whatever I had in the closet that was camo, all different types of camos. Just look good and shoot good.
Yeah.
And then decoys, I have one Avian X pen decoy that I really do like. I lost a stake to it, so it looks like it's like awkwardly short or laying
Is it
down.
the only with the arrowhead?
No, that was a different.
Oh.
That one's my dad's from who knows when.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like basically all gray because it's faded so much, And that one, yeah, we lost a stake, so we took an old aluminum arrow and shoved it inside. And then it's one of the foam ones that you can fold.
Oh,
But over years folding it wouldn't pop up again. So we ended up using expanding foam and just covered the inside with expanding foam, shoved the arrow in it. Now it doesn't, it doesn't spin or anything, but it does the job. Yeah. And then calls, same thing. I use a Woodhaven slate call, the Ninja, I think it's called. I bought it like 2 years ago, and it's by far a crystal call. The one that I got is crystal, and it's by far the best call I've ever used.
Yeah. It sounded really good.
Yeah, it's crisp. I can make clucks, purrs, yelps, anything pretty much I can use on a slate call. Yeah. And then for mouth calls, I don't use them as much anymore now that I've gotten good with a slate, but I use Primos mouth calls. They had a series a couple years ago where they had a pack of different cuts in them. Yeah. That's generally what I'll put in if I've got a bird working in, because I don't carry a box call at all. So yeah, it's either, gun in the hand and I'm trying to like slate call around my leg or something. So I generally will throw the mouth call in for that. And then generally I run and gun, more of a mobile setup. But this year my brother-in-law had his blind set up, so I figured why not? We had chairs back there and ever. We took chairs, I think, the first day. Yep. But might as well have some comfort in that. And that with that field now, most of it was sold off to the neighbor. So that's why at like 90 yards is like the property edge now. So you can't really move much around that field. So we figured why not just sit in the blind? Yeah. And it's like I said before, it's a really nice blind. You can see, I think it's 180 degrees, but you can see top to bottom everything. So that's super nice. And then did get a new turkey. I've never used a turkey vest in the past, but I got one this year. And it's one of those with the built-in foam pads, and then it's also got the backrest. So you just pop out some legs and you've got a nice backrest, which I actually really enjoyed. In the past, I've always carried one of those like Bass Pro low to the ground chairs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So then it's always like, I got
the little tripod chair.
It's called like the turkey lounger.
Oh,
so it's really like you're like 4 inches off the ground leaning back.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I really liked them, but the problem is, you got like if you go out solo, you've got chair on one shoulder, gun on the other shoulder, bear hugging 2 decoys or whatever. And
you get a turkey in front of you and you're like,
so you're trying to drop stuff and your arms are sore by the time you walk there. So it's nice not having to carry the chair anymore. I can just have it on my back.
With you saying that, lugging that Jake back, I backpack on, Jake in one hand, gun in the other, and then carrying 3 decoys because mine don't collapse like that. Yeah. So it was a nightmare. I probably, it was like a 200-yard walk, but it felt like an hour.
I would say you're stopping every 10 feet. You're like
readjusting, hands cramping. It sucked, but
could use one of those like I don't know what they're called.
The hobo stick, just.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking like basically like that, but
just bring a trekking pole to bed.
Yeah,
they make those duck things where if you kill a goose or duck, you put its neck in the thing and it like it's all on like a rope.
Oh, yeah.
You like put those like the decoy heads in there and sling it over your shoulder.
Yeah. That could be a good idea. Yeah,
never thought of that.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons I don't take a Jake or Tom decoy half the time is because our Jake is kind of foldable. The Tom we have is just like. Actually, that might be the only one. We used to have like a big full body one.
Oh yeah.
And that thing, you got to basically take that out like 3 days, in advance. Otherwise, you're never going in.
Yeah. But no, that was a nightmare of a walk back.
Yeah. Definitely an eventful turkey season, even for all of us and some of the other guys too. Hopefully, we can have them on soon. But guys like Cullen and did Matt hunt at all?
No, Matt didn't. Matt didn't. He wasn't able to. Yeah. He had, I think, work ended up coming up. Oh, yeah. So he couldn't make it.
Yeah. We do have a few other guys, and we got some more interesting, fun topics for you guys this summer. But we are going a little long, but very eventful turkey hunting season. So I'm totally cool with it. But we had really fun time and. Appreciate you coming on and talking. As we said at the beginning of the video, Cody, he is definitely one of the members of Black River Boyz, and hopefully you guys will see him in some more future videos and maybe next year too when I can actually get out and film you during your turkey season. But any last words from you guys?
Nope.
Well, just from me. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. appreciate it.
It was fun. We talk about this stuff all the time, but it's kind of cool to like, you know, you have like a list of stuff you want to talk about. You actually like learn more about it even from each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely parts of the story that I didn't hear from you about, like you're like with the coyotes and stuff like that, swiping at the decoys, but
learning the setups and like everything. It's kind of cool to hear.
Yeah. But yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in to our second episode. If you guys are listening to us on Spotify, just make sure you download it so you can hear us we're gonna try to post. It'll be a Monday that we post, but we're gonna try to get you guys some more consistent videos here. It's been 3 weeks and we only got you 2 videos, but yeah, check us out on Spotify. And if you guys are watching us on YouTube, make sure you guys hit subscribe, and you guys will see another video coming soon. But we appreciate it, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Happy 4th of July.
Oh.
All right.